and new diseases. Well-balanced ecosystems, on the other hand, can protect us, and when we use them in a sustainable way, they offer many of the best solutions to urgent challenges. I think really this panel is a continuation of the previous panel, or maybe better said, environment is such a pervasive subject that it was already brought up in the previous panel. So let me start with waste management and sanitation. So I'll ask the panelists to really build on what was said on the previous panel, but also given the dire budgetary situation and the decreasing international cooperation funds that are available, to really also always take into account a public-private sector partnership, and to include the public sector. So let me start, as I said, with waste management, and I'll turn to our first panelist, to Dr. George Younger. So my question is really a continuation of what we said before. We've heard that waste management in Monrovia, that there's a lot of waste being produced by all of us, increasingly. I think we used to say that Liberia was one of the least contributors to greenhouse gas emissions, but we are still producing too much waste, and too little of it is collected. And that is collected goes to a landfill that is being filled up. So doctor, what is your advice, your recommendations to Monrovia as a municipality?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, moderator. I would have preferred to talk to this about waste. With use resources. And the reason for this is because it helps you to appreciate that a major statement in science says that a resource cannot be destroyed, can be transformed. And so the issue of what we have is an issue of used resources that we need to think about reapplying them into the environment to be able to help us to sustain it better. The resources which we're talking about are very critical to the health and well-being of our citizens, to improve and develop human capacities and become a part of development in our country. However, it may interest you to know that labeling the byproduct of this human action as waste, this is it in the category actions to render it unusable. The word sanitation, on the other hand, is an act of cleaning our environment of used resources. Therefore, used resources or waste is popularly known because we think or refuse to take into account the importance of the value added chain associated with these resources. Now, don't get me wrong. It is not all human actions that result into waste as byproducts that are useful. For example, our survival, that are useful for our survival, as in the case of product of radioactive processes. One of the very important reasons why we assemble here during this Monrovia week is to properly support the management of an estimated 1,174 tons of solid waste of unused resources, which constitutes about 80% of those that are generated domestically. The past records of solid waste management show that there have been considerable investment in this subsector, as the case of the emus, the case of the flus, emus meaning emergency Monrovia urban sanitation project includes Chisholm Borough landfill urban sanitation, the Fiama and the Jamaica Road transfer stations. As we know, by comparison, sanitation programs are a little bit more expensive than water projects. Another important reason why we are here is because we refuse to accept that Monrovia cannot be the home or place we want to be. Our aspiration to changing the whole narrative is inspired by our national development plan, the ANRD, which singles out sanitation as a distinct pillar of development in the country's capital, human capital. All of us sitting here know that Monrovia can be a tourist center. We know that Monrovia can be a place that we would always love to be. So this takes us to a point where we know that there are solutions. We know it is possible to change things around in Monrovia. And this is why we are here. History shows that there have been solutions recommended, and those solutions can work. I believe strongly that with our collective efforts, we can be able to work together, and like we say with the city mayor in a collaborative manner, to be able to ensure that we can change things around and turn all of what we call waste into useful resources to improve our environment.
Thank you, sir. Let me continue on the same subject of waste management and sanitation. So continuing also on the previous panel, on the issue of markets and streets, pollution, and also on waste management, on the waste that is produced by those markets. So, sir, what would you say can the market people do to try to decrease waste, to manage waste, but also to decongest the markets and to decrease traffic jams around us, which contributes to pollution again? Thank you.
Thank you. To the board, operations, decrease traffic, waste management. I've been working along with the city mayor and other people at City Hall, with the former mayor. The Liberia Marketing Association was uttered into law to manage marketers within the land of this country. But there is an impediment cause the city to fill with garbage all around. And when you go to the markets, the market buildings are all empty. And street vendors have been recognized by other entities. Like you have the city government, you have the PCC, the MCC, the foreign ministries. They have recognized the street vendors. 2-3 persons get together, open the market. And you find out that all over the streets, you find garbage, and you find people selling all over the streets. And which people see them, feel, as a marketing association, control it. But when you leave and cross the bridge, you find out that you have the Kabula Township, they want to control markets. If you go within the Douala area and the Kanga Pedi area, you find out that they have the Governor Petit Trailer. So you found out that the people are all in the streets, but the market buildings are all empty. If you leave and go out the red markets area, you found out that we have buildings, over 5 to 6 buildings are all empty within the Omega market. The entire Random market is supposed to leave and go at the Omega market and do business. But you find out that 2-3 persons get together and open the market and they recognize the PCC. So to control the garbage, is to have the people from off the streets. Once you have the street vendors, you will continue to experience this problem within the city. If you want to keep the city clean and get the garbage under your control, talk about waste management. The Liberia Marketing Association have a sanitation team, they have an inspectorate team. They are to go from market to market, inspect those places, to see whether those places are clean. And those market superintendents are there to make sure that those places are clean. Why open street market? We have market places that were built by government, it's all empty. Go to the dollar market, you will find out that you have, they can stay until you get over 1,500 tables that are empty. But then you find out that the people are in the streets. So when people are selling frozen goods, and those cartoons and things are all along the streets. But they are not controlled by the Liberia Marketing Association. They were not placed. So they cause the garbage problem, the waste management we talked about. In a way you can get ahead, you make sure that the people go back into the market buildings, then you will have the streets to be clean. There are some market buildings when you go, the market lands are all empty until people are just there building their houses. When you on this side, before you make a announcement, somebody start building in the night. Because the marketers found out that people are organizing petty trailers, 2-3 persons get together. Our brother that was sitting here, he moved well. You go out to the market, you see 2-3 persons control one side, they will organize a PCC. You go on the other side, 2-3 persons, they will organize. So to control the garbage, and garbage is very expensive. Presently, as I speak to you, we have been speaking with the city mayor of Monrovia. I think our document is on his desk to see how the SME can remove garbage, because we're dealing with the CBE, and they told us that the CBE can't make it. The CBE can't make it permit. So we talked to him and he just what he charged and what the community charged is so huge, and we look at it, we not in the budget. The little amount we raise for the market, and what we use to clean the market. So we have place for marketers. We only keep the marketers in the street. We have a bigger place. If I've done to you, the mayor have all of the documents are sent to him with all of the buildings, and you have sufficient land for marketers to leave the streets. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. So it goes back to Mr. Mayor and his team. So let me now move to coastal erosion and flooding, a major issue here in Monrovia. And I'll ask Dr. Emmanuel Barolo from EPA to discuss this, to give us his views on, the increased flooding. We all see houses that are being lost in West Point. It's a combination of factors of coastal erosion, but also lack of enforcement of city rules. What interventions, can be made at the municipal level to complement those of the federal government?
Thank you, MCC, for organizing such a fantastic, beautiful program. We at APA, our role is to enforce the environmental laws of Liberia, and that's what we do. As we do so, we work to support other institutions such as the MCC. Coastal erosion is a big problem. Unfortunately, we continue to see increased coastal erosion. Because as climate change and global warming continue, those are some of the impacts. What are West Point, what are Newtown, or the Port of Buchanan for that matter, or Greenville, or Ramos Post, all of our cities around the coastal belt, they will continue to receive increased sea erosion. And the impact, when you think about it and project from now to 2050, gentrified West Point and Newtown area, over 11,500 people are expected to be on a home, put up close to 50 million loss in damages. So it's a serious problem. But what are we doing about it? First, we're talking about waste management, the environmental issue. We lift it up in the country nationally determined contribution as to serve as a basis for attracting resources. That one thing we have done in terms of coastal erosion, also we're talking about waste management, that is in the country nationally determined contribution. The next one we also working on now, we managed to make sure that Chapter 5 of the arrest agenda addresses environmental issues substantially. So that is in our document as a part of the solution, because those are policy documents. Before anyone put money into areas, we have to go through the sales document. The next one also, in terms of coastal erosion, so we have those in the NDC. We go after some funded money. We are now trying to defend the West Point. In terms of building of coastal development, that project is ongoing, $120 million project. And part of it is also going to support on another project in terms of Greenville. Because it's still very challenging, we talk about Monrovia, but as EPA, I talk nationally, so I don't really focus on Monrovia alone. Other areas are very challenged. Coastal erosion, but also not just the coastal erosion, inland erosion as well. The amount of falling soil. People are building in the wetland. People are filling in the wetland. People are backfilling the wetland. This is unacceptable. But you know why? A lot of people are involved with it. And so when many people are doing it, it's challenging. Last year alone, we brought more than 1,000 people into compliance with close down a number of places around Monrovia who are violating the environmental laws of Liberia. To take that step forward, because as EPA put stop order for construction, we realized that those stop orders are not being enforced. That means the people are not listening. Right now, we have a letter before the police director so that we can sign a memorandum of understanding with the police. So when our environmental inspectors put a stop order, the police can help to enforce that, to start to arrest people. We also have another one before the president to be able to set up a task force on wetland. It is the responsibility of the EPA and other agencies, but we are talking to the president by setting up the task force headed by the EPA, of course the MCC, and my friend is here from Public Works. Bears in mind, that task force will be empowered with a specific mandate, and that mandate is stop any further degradation of wetland. Some area we have identified, we need to build physical barriers so that people can intrude upon it. Some area we need to build wall, we need to build wire fencing. Some area we need to put some structure in place. We have identified all the areas, but with the EPA alone, the pressure is too much and there's resource constraints. So that's why we're asking the president is now before him, we're running after that to constitute that particular task force so as to take this thing seriously. Because we will continue to experience it every rain. In fact, the rain are an irregular pattern now. So, not to say much of it, but there are a lot we are doing. You know, I've not discussed the problem too much. I get one straight to some of the solution. We will continue to support the work of the MCC and the PCC to ensure that we get to a place where our people can feel comfortable. The last one I want to say is, when my friend is here, we all, Secretary is here, we are faced with this challenge. Let's try to prevent the people from settling first. Because once they settle, to move them now is so much difficult. Their right is in place. If you displace them, where are you carrying them? All kinds of questions. If we can try to prevent further encroachment on the wetland, it will be a bigger way to solve some of the problem in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving to Ambassador Bakiris, I want to ask you, what are some of the impacts of climate change that you see here affecting Monrovia, and what would you advise as, recommendations on how to do better, what to do, what can be done as part of adaptation strategies, mitigation strategies?
Well, first of all, let me say that I'm very honored and thankful to this panel. Thank you very much. And I also want to congratulate the mayor and the city council for organizing this panel as part of this celebration of the city week. I think it really signifies and symbolizes a city that is looking to the future and recognizing that there are a lot of challenges, but also a lot we can do together. So really congratulations for that. It's very important. I also want to thank you for the way you phrased that question, because it wasn't, as sometimes we find as your international partners, about what can we do as donors, but it was looking at what can the MCC and the city really do and the country do to address some of the challenge. And I think a lot of the effects that you mentioned already, and I think those are definitely there. It's worth underlining that climate change is real, it's happening, and it's going to accelerate. It's going to get worse before we manage to rein in the weaknesses. And it's very, very clear also here in Monrovia. I'm quite new here. I've only been here about 6 months, and I landed in mid-August last year, in the middle of the rainy season. But already then you can see definitely the very strong effects of coastal erosion, with the very strong seas that we had at that time. So that really highlighted for me personally as well, the very precarious position of the city that has so much in terms of beauty, natural beauty, which is marvelous and really tourism potential, but also really the very, very of the city. It's been talked about flooding, of course. I think one issue that we need to keep in mind when we talk about climate change is more erratic rainfall and the consequences that it can have also on agriculture and productivity in agriculture. Of course, that's not an impact that we'll see directly here in Monrovia, but the secondary impacts we will see through risks for food security. And as always, when these things happen, the poorest are the ones who are hit hardest. We'll also see, and people alluded to that, loss of biodiversity with what's happening in the mangroves, etc. So all of these challenges will come home to roost also here in Monrovia. And when we look at what a city can do in terms of climate change, of course a lot of focus will necessarily need to be on adaptation. But I do think it's important to also look at what can be done on the small scale in mitigation. Mitigation must happen at the global level. We know that. It must happen at the national level. But it can happen, small things, also at the local level. And I think there it's important to learn from countries such as my country, Sweden. We made a lot of mistakes. We didn't take into account life cycle perspectives, so sustainability over the longer term when we designed our transport systems in the 60s and 70s. Those things are now needing to be adapted. And I think that kind of mindset where you already from the start, you don't repeat the mistakes that we made, but you already from the start think through how to integrate sustainability and life cycle when you do things at the local level are absolutely key in terms of mitigation. Then of course, on the adaptation level, again, many things have been mentioned in terms of waste disposal, waste reduction, circular economy, strengthening coastal protection measures, etc. All of these things, of course, cost money, but I think it's important there to underline, really, as the head of the EPA here was pointing out, the need to think of this at the national level as well as the local level, and really think through the complementarities and the roles of the different agencies. And I will, in the interest of time, not really spend much time talking about what Sweden is doing in terms of helping Liberia in environmental protection, but just to underline that for Sweden and for the EU, I know as well, helping Liberia manage these challenges is definitely one of our key priorities going forward, and we'll look forward to partnering with you. But as I said earlier, it must start with actions at home. I'm going to end there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Moving to sustainable urban planning with Minister Giddings. So we'll live in Monrovia, we'll move around in Monrovia, we see aging infrastructure, we see building sites, we see houses that are being lived in by not the rightful owners. There are property rights conflicts, a lot of issues. What would you consider as the clear role of the City Planning Department in Monrovia City Corporation complementing the work that you and your team in the ministry do?
Thank you for having me. let me say thanks to the MCC for organizing this. I think this is a very important event for us to begin discussing how we transform our city. And I always say this, that we don't have any other city. We don't have the capacity to have another city. So let's transform this city. And I have a saying that we can buy back Monrovia. Monrovia can be bought back. And I believe in that concept. I've had a conversation with the mayor about this. One of the things we need to understand first is our infrastructure is very key to our growth. We have both our economic and social infrastructure. But the economic infrastructure for us is key. That is our roads, our telecommunication, our energy infrastructure, our seaports, our airports. These are the infrastructure that support growth. We have to organize our cities in a way that this infrastructure can create the space for economic growth. When that growth takes place, then we need to develop all the social infrastructure, building the schools, building hospitals, building the basic compounds, building all the hospices and take care of people who do not have the ability to do for themselves. Let's look at the drainage system in Monrovia. This city was built from a very small population. Its population size has almost tripled. That means the city has outlived its usefulness. Currently, we have a situation where the drainage system is now occupied by sewage. As I speak, the Ministry of Public Works and the Water and Sewer Corporation is currently on the field right now. We're demolishing properties that are built on the sewage system. During that exercise, we established that structures that shouldn't be on the sewer system are on the sewer system. So we're creating access, working with the Water and Sewer Corporation currently as I speak to create access. To create a sustainable city, we have to bring the city to a level first before you can sustain it. And what we have, I don't think it is. And I agree with the marketing representative very well, and the mayor myself changed that. We're not going to have people standing in the streets. There was a suggestion for us to give dead ends, what you call dead ends, or some roads that we are not using. We're using all the roads because we have to create access. If we are opening up alleys, we are demolishing properties that are in the right of way, in alleys, to create access. There are communities that are not accessible if there are disasters. For example, fire disaster. We can access our community. We just introduced a new zoning law to the legislature that I will be together with my team defending in the next month to create a whole new urban planning of the city. And that's going to look at construction of buildings, look at building codes where they can be. But in the meantime, we are currently doing what is orthodox. I'm a very practical person. I like all the speeches, I like all the gathering, but I like to get out there on the streets and do it. And we're beginning to create access already. The Oro community, for example, there are 3 entrances to Oro now. The Nigerian House, Cali Junction, and Fish Market. And I can announce to you that we'll be creating additional 3 access into Oro from the boulevard. You see that very soon. We have to first create the kind of city we want to see. We do not have money to create a new city, but let's begin to transform this city into what it ought to be. So, working on our sewer system, we're going to do so. Working on the drainage system, we now have to build a resilient drainage system. The street selling has been responsible for the clock and all the flooding you see. For the first time, Monrovia City Corporation, during the last drainage season, experienced a flood that you never saw. Guess what happened? There's a drainage system closer to the UN building that got clogged with old tires. Some of what we took from in there, it was unbelievable that it was in there, but it has been there and clogged the entire system and lied to appear like it was only because the rain was heavy, that is why it got flooded. No, the drainage system was clogged. On the streets, when people sell, they create a lot of time on the street. We have some design drainage system in the city for just storm drain water to flow. Go on the streets now in such a Monrovia. They're clogged with sand, they're clogged with plastic bags because people are all on the street. I know we have a commitment with the mayor to walk the streets. Monrovia next week, people can sell on the street. Petty trailers go to the market. Thank you for the data system. And there are spaces in the market buildings. They don't want to go to the market. They want to sell on the streets. If I want to go one side to buy something, my wife and I sometimes goes to, and then sometimes we go to Monrovia Market. It's down one side, Johannesburg. If people want to find what they want to find, they go there. Let's move them. We have to make that decision. And I'm ready to do that because it impacts our infrastructure. Our roads deteriorate. Benson Street and Bessie and Gurley Street. That place has deteriorated not because the road wasn't built properly. Because people sell on the streets, because people clog the drainage system. We are opening places now on Gurley Street, straight to Center Street, to access the sewer system and drainage system. Demolition will be taking place in a few days. We'll do it because we have the transparency. That's what we do.
I'm ready for this. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for organizing this. But please, let's get in the street. That's where we should be. Thank you.
Continuing on sustainable urban planning, moving to certain my question is, we've discussed now that Monrovia is a 201-year-old city, and that it was built for far less people than the number of people that live there now. And we've seen also that it has been deteriorating. But what would be your advice, looking at the plans to redevelop Monrovia with key, beautiful infrastructure, architecture along the waterways, greeneries, and also, of course, putting into better value the heritage, what would be your recommended approach to the city, but also to the private companies, the construction companies that are building so many buildings now in the city?
Thanks so much for your question. Mr. Mayor, thanks very much for the event. This is a very good effort, and I hope it continues. We've listened to much that's been said. There are lots of conflicts, there are contradictions, there are competing interests, and that is the nature of the city. And addressing the issue of how these contradictions and all these competitions will be addressed is going to be very complex. Now, as cities progress and as events take place, changes happen. And I believe we know the change that took place that has got us to where we are today. So what we have, I would say, is that the city has become besieged. It has changed in terms of use from what it was to what it is now. And there needs to be a lot of creativity to get it back to where we want it to be, but we have to define what the city needs to be and what we want it to be. Can it become what it was? What purpose is it going to serve us in terms of our economic life? What are the inputs of all of us? What is the policy for urban development? What are all of the features that need to come together for a productive urban development policy? These are questions that need to be asked, and these are questions that need to be answered with a solution, comprehensive solutions that to be found.
we know that there are lots of people that live in the city. And these people have to eat a living from doing a lot of media jobs to sell on the streets. They will tell you they have a right to be here. They have a right to do what they want to do. But rights do complicate. So these are matters that need to be addressed, and appropriate solutions need to be found, either through legislations and other means of enforcement. I recall not too long ago that the Institute of Architects was discussing the issue of slums and informal settlement development. Now, it is said that 70% of the population of Monrovia live in slums and informal settlements. If this is fact, do these people live there because of lack of opportunities, or do they live there because that is the only options that they have? How is that going to be managed? Because it is through slums and squalid settlements, and also through having to create land for construction that negative impacts on the environment tend to originate. And disposition of deposition of garbage, disposal, all of these become problems that are multiplied in that kind of setting. So, how do we ensure that poor people gain access to technical services? How do they gain access to infrastructure? Infrastructure is usually explained in terms of investment. It is explained in terms of cost benefit. This is fine, this is good. One needs to understand that if you invest in loads and loads of money, then you will get a return. But for 70% of the land area and of the population, if you invest heavily in that area, are you going to get the returns? These are challenges that need to be addressed. How do the poor get access to infrastructure? So, there are regulations. The regulations will say that drawings need to be submitted at public boards for approval, so that we can ensure that quality and conformance to design standards and codes are met. This is good, but the poor cannot afford the quality services that are required for them to develop quality products. Contradictions. So, will an architect who earns thousands of dollars a year be prepared to provide service to a poor person who hardly afford to spend $100 per floor plan? Contradictions. So all of these, so what is needed is a comprehensive statement of solution that will be able to address the whole issue comprehensively of urban development.
Thank you so much.
We'll put it at this point.
Thank you. I'll turn now to the audience for questions, and while you're looking at your questions, I still wanted the Minister to reply to my question on what is the role of the Ministry and the role of the MCC.
Just to tell my moderator, we only have 20 more minutes to wrap up this session, so we pray that you will be a little considerate with time, please.
So I think I just went quickly over what I said, that the zoning, the old zoning law has been transformed. We have a new zoning law now that looks at an entire reform of the facilities of organization, look at zoning and even some of the issue of building, where to build what and at what time. That has been done and submitted to the legislature. This is what we can do as the Ministry of Public Works to be able to again create a complete new layout of what the city should look like based on what the new zoning law is. So that law has been submitted already, which is good enough for urban planning, and not just for the city of Monrovia, but for the entire country as to how we see city layouts. That is already at the legislature, and I hope we can get it passed into law so that that new zoning law can look at the organization of our city. That is how we can help, of course, not just MCC, but all of the city governments around the country.
Thank you, Minister. Okay, so I'll take some questions now, and only from women. Sorry. And only from people who have not asked questions before. But I don't have my glasses. So, please, the lady in yellow. And please introduce yourself, question, no comments, and tell us who you addressed the question to.
Good afternoon. I'm Hidati Kolo, First Level Career Committee Chairperson. My question goes to the Minister of Public Works. Mr. Green, what are the strategies are you putting in place to take the marketeers from the streets?
Okay, thank you. I'll take some questions from the young people in the back. The lady in blue.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon to all. I think that's Masiko from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. My question goes directly to the facilitator from the LMA. From your presentation, I love that you actually prepared with the facilitator from the Petty Traders Association. So if I got you rightly, according to your presentation, you made us to understand here today that one of your greatest challenges when it comes to environmental protection and sanitation is the fact that the petty traders, which is the street vendors, is a recognized institution by the city of Monrovia. So now, if today the street vendors can be dissolved and incorporated into the LMA, do you have a space that can contain both the LMA members and the street vendors? And also, based on the dissolution of the street vendors, can you assure the people of Monrovia and Liberia at large that the Monrovia and the Liberian people will be obtained with the dissolution of the street vendors? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
One more question, please.
Some no single women want to ask questions. That's the issue, of course. The man in yellow, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Isaac T.S. Benet from the Center for Plastic Waste Management and Recycling. My question is directly to Dr. Yapalo and MCC. So, according to data provided by the MCC, it says that over 2/3 of the population of Monrovia does not have access to safe waste collection services. Now, the World Health, not the World Health Organization, but the World Bank also says that on a daily basis, some 1.5 million kg of waste is being collected in Monrovia, of which less than 85%, right, is rightly collected. Considering these crises, considering the consequences of these garbage that we are having in the street, beyond policies, because we've heard about a lot of policy document collaboration between or amongst entities. My question is, beyond the policy, what are tangible actions that are being taken from the angle of the EPA and the FCC, especially with respect to recycling, involving SMEs in mitigating these problems? My question comes from the fact that I remember weeks back or some months back, we had some interaction, especially with the FCC, that month or 6 years. And we see that FCC serves as the implementing agency and the policy maker. So we want to know what are actionable steps that are being taken to involve SMEs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That will be the end.
For these questions.
Yes, that will be the end of the questions.
Okay, so I'll start with the facilitator, the minister, the EPA, and marketeers, but also ask the other panelists for their concluding remarks, short concluding remarks. I think the first question was to a facilitator.
What was the question? What was the first question? And was it sent to me or to the MCC?
The first question was to the minister.
Yeah, she asked the question about.
So, sir, that would be your concluding. So, we want to make sure that you incorporate it into your conclusion, please. Okay. Yeah, final words.
So the question is, what is our strategy to remove street vendors from the street?
To
accommodate them?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
So no, personally, I would say this. Street vendors on the streets shouldn't be on the streets. Should be in the market, in the marketplaces.
Hope it's okay, right?
I know there has been a conversation about us trying to find place for them. The Ministry of Public Works do not have place for street vendors to sell. Sorry. The street is the streets. We have some streets that are open currently that we're going to begin by next year to pay to connect. For example, like the Rabble Street between the Trinity Cathedral and the Ministry of Finance, it is a street, and we are looking to pay that next year. We don't have place for that. I will leave that with MCC and the Marketing Association to find place for them. But the Ministry of Public Works do not have place for street vendors. Not on the streets, off the streets. Because you know why? We have serious issue with our drainage system. Because people sell in the streets, the drainage system is treated badly. If you go to Central Town, you'll see that. When we clean the drainage systems, we take up plastic bags, we take up all kinds of waste, which shouldn't be there. And it's only because people sell on the street. Street selling shouldn't be something we should encourage. As much as we know the society is a society that have people who are at lower level, that we agree, we can still find a way for them to do business, but not to turn our city into slum. We must have the city. Let me also say, to conclude, the Prophet Island is a heritage site that we must be proud of as a country. But all of us in the world, we are not proud of the Prophet Island because of what it is today. See the waterfront where it looks like. I know the mayor has a program to try to clean up the waterfront. For us to do that, we have to buy back Monrovia. And I said, buy back the waterfront. The waterfront is a very important scenario of our country. Anyway, travel to other countries, you see what the waterfronts look like. We have to change that. And Prophet Islands has to have its status to be recorded in UNESCO record as a heritage site. We should make sure that happens. And so I'm ready to work with the MCC on making sure we transform the city of Monrovia. Thank you.
We move to the EPA.
Okay, the question is our relationship with the MCC, especially when it comes to plastic and solid waste. The EPA is very focused on what we do. We remain a regulatory institution. We will hardly go into a direct implementation. Where there are regulatory gap, we fill in the gap. When we realize that we know how to solid waste management policy, we work with the MCC and supported them and got that done. Right now, we are in the process of finishing the regulation for all type of waste that is being developed. The EPA is doing that. And so we will hold the MCC accountable for making sure to clean the city. So if at all there is trash somewhere and that trash is back there and community members are affected by it, by the pollution, then we will come in to say, MCC, what are you doing about your trash? That's why the solid waste management policy we have is private sector driven. And want a lot of private individuals to come into space because, to be honest with you, it's a little bit easy to regulate private companies than to regulate government institutions. Government institutions regulating them, it becomes a little bit complex. However, we are working to support their efforts and we will continue to do so. Where there are weaknesses, we can come in to strengthen. Again, that's why we are talking about it globally, incorporating that in our nationally determined contribution as to attract some resources that the government may not have. So we'll continue to support the MCC and all other institutions working in Liberia to conform to the environmental laws of Liberia. And in the distant future, you'll see that we'll be taking some harsher decisions, even on government institutions. The way you solve it is up to you. But we need to make sure we enforce the environmental law because that's our responsibility.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll move to the monitors.
Thank you. Our sister there asked a question, talking about the dissolutions of the titulars. We all have the titular that carry over 10,000 licenses that don't go to the street themselves. And then they take the shop and carry the shop on the street. I had that before in Monrovia. If you were born in the 80s, when you talk about petty, it is just a way of market, sitting somewhere, somebody selling cheapness and candy or cigarette in it. What we call petty. Sometimes you see peanuts that are in plastic. Sometimes you see people using cup, base cup, national peanuts to sell. What we call petty. Petty traders are now people taking the entire store. Cost 20,000, 30,000 carrying the streets. As a man, I want to tell you that yesterday we have to keep the city clean. And in keeping the city clean, we have to put those measures in place. We will not allow people sitting on Broad Street. You take copper, instead of corn, you put corn in a big pot and set it on the copper, and when somebody comes, they say they want to pass, please excuse me, say, don't waste my money. You cannot have that happening. Let me tell you, we have place for, if we talk about this solution, we have place for market also safe. Where are the relative market building? My office is there, as for the deputy manager for operation. I will take any market you go to, if somebody wants to charge you when the process starts, we work with the national police, the MCC, we will place you into the market building free. Anybody want to charge you, market should be there, the number is coming. We have place for the marketers. We have place here for the market building. We have place at the next door. The other countries we have been there, we do that only here. But to keep the cemetery, we have to put those things in place. We don't have people in the street. Take example like the Monrovia Bridge. Where the pedestrians supposed to pass, there people put the table there themselves. As committee member on that bridge, and the minister of public will not pay that bridge. I was there. What's the building that they pay for? Honorable Minister, see the building that government pay for, that you have the drug treatment, where you have the police depot. The other store are there. The two stores government pay for it. The other one that only start where here is the people. Government pay for those buildings. But you go and see people selling in it. So why government pay for it for the garbage to be controlled, the waste that we talk about to be controlled. But everybody go into the market buildings, then you have proper control over waste.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, so we're going to take concluding remarks from the other panelists in reverse order, starting with Sir Okada. 1 minute, please.
Hey.
Yeah, very briefly. Much has been said about partnership, public-private sector partnership. We need to give access across the board. We need to take knowledge, services, and planning to the local level, almost to all levels of industry. And I think we can do this through engagement with private sector practitioners, as they apply their trade, their knowledge to the public. So in that regard, we would want to reach out to the Ministry of Public Works and MCC and PCC to ensure that there is such an engaging relationship between the two.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Ambassador Beckers.
Sorry. Thank you very much. Yes, if I were to be very brief, I think we would focus on the word partnership. We've heard a lot about the new challenges here in terms of climate change impacts, waste disposal, coastal erosion, and everything. It's about managing this is about partnerships. Government has a key role to play, local as well as national. Private sector has a key role to play, citizens and communities has a key role to play, but no one can do everything. Government is not very good at innovating. Private sector can do that. Private sector has capital in addition to what the government provides, but the private sector can't regulate. We know that. That's what the government must do. The government must create the conditions. And of course, at the end of the day, it's about citizens. Citizens need to hold their governments accountable. We need to ensure awareness raising. Events such as this is key. But also, it starts at home, right? We need to ensure that we dispose our waste in an appropriate manner and try to do whatever we can to help make sure that the city becomes even more beautiful and more livable and more sustainable. So it's about partnerships. That would be my parting word. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Last word to you.
My party comments has to do with collaboration. I think we can do it. I heard the Minister of Public Works talking about doing some walks in communities. I think this is very important. The public need to know that we are in their interest and we are interested in their welfare. As Dr. Yapo just said, we also are regulators. We ensure that what we agree upon are enforced if necessary. So we will do our best to support the MCC. The Watch Commission and its staff are prepared to be able to go into communities and ensure that this city is something that we want to plan and to make people to live here, to live in the city as they will live anywhere where they are mind. So collaboration is my last parting word.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all panelists for your insights and your meaningful contributions. And thank you to Monrovia City Corporation for the organization of this panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You can clap for them, please. Clap for them.